Welcome back to the Blazor Server In-Depth course. In this lesson, we're going to be wrapping up this section by going over our homework and reviewing what we've learned. Now in this section, we covered all about data access. We used SQL for that. We talked about separation of concerns, and then we created some CRUD actions. So create, read, update, and delete. So you have this example of how to do each of them and how to do it well with Blazor. But then we looked at how easy it is, since we did separate our concerns, to swap out that data access layer with a different data access, because we just are working against an interface. We can use that a different actual data access. So for example, SQLite or MySQL or something similar, Postgres, and then we just hook it up to that interface and we're all set. Okay, so that's what we talked about. And then now in our homework, we need to do a little bit more work. So let's look at our homework. Our homework says to add a search page to the Blazor app that we created in the lessons. The page should ask for a string and then display just the records that match based upon the first or last name matching either fully or partially. So let's look at how we would do that. Now we could get cute, and I've been tempted to, but I don't think I'm going to, because I don't think it's worth the extra time it's going to take for you to watch it. We could get cute, and in our layout, so we have our main layout here, and at the top we have this about. We could put a component here that's search, and it's a search box and a button, and then that opens a new page that just has the results, which a lot of pages do, but I think we're just going to create a search page. I don't think we need to go the extra mile there for very little reward. So let's just say add and new item. We want a razor component, and we're just going to call this search. So this is the search page, and in here we're going to have a really simple form. So let's create a model for it. So we're going to create a new model, new item, class, and you want to call this the search model. And this search model is going to have one property. And this is search term. That's it. I'm not going to bother to put validation on it. So with that, you know what? No, I'm going to put validation on it, because some joker's going to just hit search without actually putting anything in there. And that joker's probably me. Control dot to add the using statement, save. So now it's required. So you have to put something in the search term. Okay, so here we can say private search model, search equals new search model. And then in here we can have our edit form, and then we can have our model for search, and then we'll have our on valid submit equals handle valid submit, which we will create. Private async task handle valid submit. And we need our two items up here, the data annotation validator and the validate or validation summary. And now let's create our form. So we'll try for a little nicer, div class equals form group. And then we'll have our label that says search. Let's just say search, no colon. I don't know where my cursor went or why it went there, but it did. And then here we're going to say input text. And our input text is going to have a bind value equal to search dot search term. And then we'll just do this. And at the end, actually, nope, we don't need another line there. We need another line here. We need a button with a class equal btn dash primary. Actually, do outline dash primary. I like that a little better. And then we'll have a type equals submit. And then we'll say search. or let's go with go. Okay, and that's going to submit this search. Let's change this from search to search page. So it would have search, search, and then we would have had search a third time, but we changed it to go. So let's change that. And now let's go down to our data access, and we're going to add a new stored procedure. SP people underscore search. And this is going to pass in a search term and varchar 50. Since the longest a name can be is 50, I don't see why we don't limit it like that. Begin, end. Inside here, we're going to do select star from dbo.people where first name like. And we're going to do something really quick and dirty here with this, like this. And I'll explain this in just a minute. So what this is saying is we're first name like, and this is a wildcard character. So we're putting a wildcard character on both sides of a search term, and we're adding that to the string search term. So now it can be anything. If I say Tim, and the first name is Timothy, it's going to find that it's going to say Tim, nothing in front of it, that's fine. But there is Othi afterwards, that's fine too. I matched Tim. Cool. So that's going to find Tim. If I had Tim here in the first name and the search term was Tim, it would still match because there's nothing before and after, but it still has that exact match. So that's what it's going to look like. We're going to say, or last name like, and we'll do the same thing. So that way, if the first name is like this or the last name is like this, return that as a match. There we go. So now we have our stored procedure. Let's update that database. So we'll publish this. And now that we've done that, we can collapse down the database. Let's collapse this down as well, and let's go to our person SQL data access. Let's copy this right here. We'll paste it, and we'll say search people. And it's going to be based upon a string search term. And we'll say search term equals, and we'll pass in search term. Okay. There we go. So now we got a search term. Let's make sure it really is a search term. I'm fairly certain it was, but search term. Yep. Okay, so we're going to pass in a search term, and we're going to have people underscore search for the store procedure. It will still return, well, we want it to return a list of people. So just like we have right here, we're going to do this. That's what we're going to do down below as well. And we need to have this be a list of iPerson model. So we're going to return a list of people, 0 or more, but that will be a list of people that match that search term. So let's save this. Let's elevate this into our interface. But now, since we created this dummy data service, we now have to implement that here as well. So if we scroll down here, we now have this new not implemented exception, which we could leave alone or we could implement. I think I'll implement it. Return task.fromResult people.where x.firstname let's do contains. Contains search term. Okay. And so that's going to see if it contains a search term. And then we'll say or x dot last name contains the search term. And let's count our parens. 1, 2, 3 opens. That's 2 opens. We closed one of them. 3, 2, 1, 0. I believe that's correct. But now we're not returning a list. So we have to do dot to list. Okay, so we're going to do let's break it here. So we're going to return from people where first name contains search term or last name contains search term, and that's to list. All right, so we've implemented that. Not as big a deal that we do that, but I'm make sure we do. Also, before I forget, let's go over to our startup.cs and make sure that we are using the person SQL data service, not the dummy data service. Okay, so now we're all set there. On our search page, what we can do is we can have a list. And actually, we can get this right from our read people. We'll have something very similar to what we have here. So let's grab pretty much exactly what we have here. I'm going to grab that and paste it in. That's our list of people. And then I am going to grab all of this. All right, so all of this, yep, including the curly braces. So this whole section right here, I'm going to paste it in below our edit form. I'll probably wrap that edit form in something, maybe a row or something. But now for our people is null, we'll say loading. Otherwise, we'll show the information. We're not going to include the edit stuff. So let's get rid of this. We're just going to show it. That's all we're going to do. We're not going to worry about the updates. Okay, so now we have our list so that once we handle a valid submit, then we can do our search. So we can say people equals, and then we have our, we don't have it brought in yet. Well, we need to bring that in. We need to inject this. We also need to add a page for this. At page search. And then we'll inject the person data service. And so we'll need person data. Person data dot search people. And pass in the search term of search. Like so. And that should get back for us. It's yelling at me. Search dot search term. There we go. So now we're passing in a string and it's saying, we got to await this. Red squigglies are awesome. I love red squigglies. Don't get frustrated when you see them. They teach you something. So now we're properly filling in the search based upon the submission. So we submit, we're going to fill in the search and update the people list. Let's try this out. So let's go to shared, nav menu, come down here and add one more. And we'll say search, and there's got to be a magnifying glass or something. There is. Awesome. Let's try this out. See how we do. Okay, we've loaded Kestrel. And now we've loaded our page. We have a really cool search down here. It says loading right now. maybe we should just hide that since the list is getting null until we search for something. So I'm going to search, well, first of all, read people. Okay, there's 2 people, Smith and Storm. Let's add another person, Tim Corey, and I think that's good. Let's find some unique characters or characters like OR. So Corey and Storm both have OR, but Bob does not. So if I search for OR, hit go, I get Sue Storm and Tim Corey, but not Bob Smith. If I search for SMI, I get Smith. If I search for S, I get Sue and Bob because both have an S, but I don't. Okay? So there's a lot of things you can search for, and it will give you the terms based upon which ones are actually in the database. Now, that's a terrible looking form, and I'd want to clean this up, and I probably would consider putting it up here somewhere and maybe going to a search page or something like that. I'm not sure, but this does show off how we can search through the database. And that's all there was to our homework, is to get search working. So with just a few tweaks to our data access code, 1 store procedure and 1 extra method, and then just calling that, we've got search up and running. And then it's just a matter of formatting it and making it look pretty. So data access, once you get the structure in place, is not difficult, even if you decide to do it through Dapper, which doesn't create for you the models and the queries like an entity framework would. But even so, it's very easy to do because there's not a lot to do. Okay? So there is our example of how to add to our data access. Try it out. Make sure that you've got something similar to what I have. Maybe play around and put it up in that next to the about or something like that, and just try different things. Get used to it. The more you practice, the more your skills will grow at Blazor. Okay? Once you've done that, come on back for the next section where we'll start talking about how to deploy these apps to various places.